Prepare to do a lot of editing, by the way. I'm going to do some rambling and inconcise bullshit.
Oh, that's totally fine. If you've seen a video of Josh and I doing shit, you know that we tend to go on for a while.
Perfect.
What is going on, guys? I'm Tyler.
I'm Adam.
And Adam, is there something that you'd like to tell the audience right now?
Swim with a friend. Be careful what you wish for.
I already feel that way doing this video, but here we go.
Boom. I still swim with a friend. Don't sue me, Brandy from next door. I stole that phrase.
Anyways, we're here to let you know that the Batman is no perfect movie, but it comes pretty damn close on multiple occasions.
Shockingly close.
Yeah, it takes place 2 years into Bruce Wayne's saga as Batman. He's younger, less experienced, and played by Robert Pattinson. And he's tasked with solving a string of murders being committed by the Riddler, played by Paul Dano. And over the course of his investigation, he uncovers a much larger conspiracy that serves as his motivation, leading him to require the assistance of James Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, and, of course, Selina Kyle, played by the lovely and talented Zoë Kravitz. And, how excited were you for this?
Very. I kind of went in a little bit with my expectations managed, I guess, because initially I was really excited because I love Robert Pattinson because, he's really earned his way into my heart over the years through, like, Good Time and The Lighthouse, which is my favorite movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. It's weird. Just, like, midway through, it just kind of hit me. I was just like, I think this might be my favorite movie. And then it kept hitting me with, like, weirder and weirder things where it's like, I don't know if I would tell people that I like this movie as much as I do. But I've come full circle and I recommend it.
That's true, because it's not really that accessible of a film.
And there's some scenes that are a little, you don't want to necessarily recommend it to everybody.
No.
Especially because they'll be like, why does he like this so much? The scene is a little uncomfortable.
Why the fuck does he fart so much?
Yeah, exactly. And there's some, self-indulgence with his character and some montages with shark genitalia and stuff. So it's not for everyone, but
no,
but it's for me, I guess. So I was really excited for him, and then, lately, like in the the pandemic build-up where they're trying to get as many people to come out as possible, I felt like they were maybe giving away a little too much in the trailers and TV spots and everything. And I felt like I had seen too much of the atmosphere of the movie, and like, you get kind of a sense for what a scene's going to look like visually, and you kind of wait for it. It's like, oh, that's going to be the fight scene where, it's got this kind of lighting, or it's in this type of location. But it blew me away. Like, none of that affected me.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I wasn't as hyped about Robert Pattinson being Batman just because, I mean, what else? The reputation that he and basically everyone in the Twilight Saga, except for Taylor Lautner and Kellen Lutz, the two of them still suck at acting, have really beaten that curse lately, and all for the better, because you're right. Pattinson was awesome in Good Time, Lighthouse, was probably the best aspect of Tenet, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, he was great in that. Very charming.
Yeah, very charming and a little sneaky in how he double-crosses people without necessarily betraying them. He was always, like, one step ahead of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, already, I just sat there, I'm like, okay, he has the mystique that he needs in order to be Batman, and he can tell these jokes in a much more dry, dark sense of humor the way that Batman would randomly quip in an awkward attempt to socialize with people.
True.
So he earned my respect over that, and the trailers definitely sold the physicality that he was going to be bringing to the role, because he didn't really strike me as a not necessarily bulked up actor like The Rock or anything, but he did seem a little scrawny, especially when he is dressed up as Bruce Wayne.
True.
But what kept my interest and what had me so excited to check out this movie was the fact that it is made by Matt Reeves. If there's a director that I instantly trust within a second, it would be him, because he's one of those few directors like Tarantino and Zack Snyder who, every time you watch their movies, you get the impression that they've been given as much creative control as possible to make something that feels like New Hollywood in the 70s. And it's not to say that those guys don't have restrictions or anything. I did find out later on that there were a couple mandatory things that Reeves had to do. For one, it did have to be PG-13 regardless of however long it was going to be or however dark and grim it could. And this was a really weird choice, but the Penguin was not allowed to smoke.
That's weird.
Which I don't understand, because without spoiling anything, drug dealing plays a part in the film, and you see the drugs and the people who are using them clear as day. Yeah. And yes, they're a made-up drug, and I'm willing to bet that was the reason they let it fly, but that still makes no sense.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Even Colin Farrell called bullshit on that and was like trying to beg them, hey, can I at least have a Cuban with me? I mean, yeah, it's a stereotypical gangster thing, but totally. Like, it fits the visuals, it fits the character, and for whatever reason they said no to that. It made absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. But he is one of those few directors where the story is told as visually as possible. He evokes the feeling of a 40s or 50s movie the same way that Tarantino would, where he pays homage to other stuff without necessarily ripping it off. And it's funny, what you were saying about the trailers, that was kind of true, where I felt a little worried that they were giving away too much, and then they revealed just how damn long the movie is, and I just sat there, I'm like, okay, there's definitely going to be still some element of surprise towards it. And yeah, even though I was already excited to check this out, this absolutely knocked it out of the park. This has got to be one of, if not, my favorite Batman movies ever. And we were talking about this when I left the theater. I don't know how much shit I'm going to get for saying this, but I would much rather watch this than any of the Dark Knight trilogy films from Christopher Nolan. I know that sounds blasphemous, but I can't really help it. The movie was so good that on Sunday morning, the day afterwards, Monday afternoon, I had that day off. I went back and saw it. It was legitimately that good. And the things that we're going to talk about, the pluses and negatives, everybody's already said it, because every major YouTuber has already come out with a review, because Warner Brothers wisely had the decision to give them early screeners, pump out that good press. They were so confident in the product that they had, and all the better for it. If we repeat something that everyone else already has, just take it as a good sign that the movie is that phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my god. Ugh. Yeah. Probably it's my favorite Batman. I'll lay my cards on the table there.
I got no issue saying that. I mean, with Robert Pattinson especially, he does something that I've never seen anyone do in live action, where it feels like 90% of the movie he actually is Batman.
Mm-hmm,
if you were to ask me how long he was Bruce Wayne in this film, I would say maybe a half hour tops. Mm-hmm. I kept forgetting that he was Bruce Wayne until he took off his costume, and even then, I had to remind myself. And you can kind of see, as he's interacting with people, that he feels like he's putting on a facade when he's Bruce Wayne. The way that he avoids eye contact with everybody, makes every sentence as short as possible, even when he's talking to Alfred, of all people. Yeah. Like, the relationship with them seemed tense, even though they technically seemed like it was like they were having a good relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's bizarre too, because like it really puts you in his shoes without being too heavy-handed about it. Like, it's not a very first-person movie. It doesn't feel that way, but it gives that effect where, yeah, it does feel weird when he's not Batman, and you pick up on how uncomfortable he is too. And, you know, there's that line in the opening monologue about, like, you know, how many ever hundreds of days of nights where, you know, he feels weird being out in the day, and therefore the movie feels weird when it's in the daytime, which happens, like, twice, I think. It's pretty much always at night.
Now that you mention it, yeah. I think, like, the beginning scene and end, and the funeral scene, at the beginning of the funeral scene anyways, because without spoiling anything, it does drag on a little bit and leads into one of the best sequences in the movie that we'll definitely get into later. But, it's funny, with when he uncovers a key piece of the Riddler's motivation that actually ties into his own tragic past, there's a moment where he has to approach this one gangster who is played excellently by John Turturro. He has to actually break all of these social anxiety fears that he has by trying to interrogate people using his billionaire status without coming across as conspicuous. And you can see that that is a lot harder for him than beating the shit out of this gang that is preying on an innocent victim. Which it also made me realize something very key about Bruce Wayne as a human being. He has no problem expressing himself physically by beating the shit out of people or verbally when he's in the costume, and whenever he's talking with Gordon or Catwoman about the flaws that they've uncovered, he has this blunt, cold, and uncompromising attitude towards giving advice to people, which definitely shows that he is capable of wisdom and that he has it. But you also have to remind yourself that ever since he was 8 years old, the only adult figure that he had in his life was this sarcastic military man with no parenting experience whatsoever. And the only reason he kind of does is that he started a little too late. By that point, Bruce had already begun his crusade against crime. He doesn't have anybody in his life to push him forward, and he has to seek out people like Gordon and Catwoman who genuinely have their best interests at heart and are willing to mutually call each other out for their mistakes and advise them on how to prevent making certain choices like that in the future.
Yeah, Alfred was really interesting too, because I forget if I actually noticed this or if it was just implied or something, but I like how rather than being a butler, he was a bodyguard, and that was apparently his relationship to the Waynes.
It's
so,
funny,
like,
yeah, because his first introduction, he's got a cane, which when I saw that, I just sat there and went, oh, okay, that's different. I thought you were a younger Alfred. And then you see this scar on his eye, and I just sat there and I'm like, holy shit, you were there that night.
I didn't put that together. That's really cool.
At least, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it would certainly work.
And you love a Batman movie with no crime alley flashback. It's like...
Yeah, everybody said, don't worry, they don't repeat this, which...
God.
Exactly.
The slow motion pearls. It's like, I get it. I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah, Batman v Superman completely screwed that up.
It's like, I like how... one of the first things I noticed about Tom Holland's Spider-Man is no Uncle Ben death. It's like, we don't need that. We know the backstory.
I don't think it was until No Way Home that they even brought up Uncle Ben.
There's like a brief mention, I think in the first one, like someone says like, he says, I can't let May find out. Like, I can't let another thing happen to her or whatever. Or like, I don't know how she'd handle this, implied that something else really bad happened.
I just like that the movie already assumes that we know this shit about Batman already and just wants to tell a straightforward story with it.
And it treats the audience like we're smart more often than that, too. Like, the whole movie, it doesn't spoon-feed you anything. It just, like, yeah, it assumes that you're paying attention, which is nice. It doesn't have to hit you over the head with exposition or anything.
Oh, 100%. But, like, when he is Batman, he is perfect. Yeah. I mean, he is excellent at the ability to communicate everything that's on his mind by giving the exact same cold stare every single time. But, like, the subtle changes in his body language, like, exactly what it is that he's thinking. If his mouth is wide open and he's breathing in and out so deeply, he's about ready to crack your skull open. You raise an eyebrow, you just gave him an important piece of the puzzle and he wants you to keep talking. Because there's that great scene where a cop is just like, I wonder why the killer used this as a weapon, and the Batman just went... And the guy's just like, oh, I gave him something important. Okay, yeah, this is how I know this and that. And it leads him to uncover something that did not see coming whatsoever.
Yeah, that was really cool. I was wondering what that weapon was, too, up till that point. It's just like, that doesn't look like anything I've ever seen, and that's the point. That was so cool.
Yeah.
That was really smart.
And thank God the voice...
I was gonna say, yeah. So not goofy. Like, you don't even notice it. Like, probably also because he barely talks, but, like, yeah, like, it's genuinely like he sounds in, like, one of the Arkham games, except without being Kevin Conroy, is that his name?
Yeah.
The animated Batman? Yeah, like, he obviously doesn't have that type of voice. You can tell he's changing his Robert Pattinson voice, but he's not wearing hockey pads. So, it doesn't sound ridiculous.
He doesn't sound like Clint Eastwood having a climax.
Which is like, that's Clint Eastwood when he gets there. Okay.
It's not as goofy as, like, the Batman cartoon where he just didn't change the voice at all.
Yeah, he's just same handsome deep voice man. And no one ever suspects a thing. And, well, speaking of which, that's kind of a weird thing people don't realize or think about, I guess, is that, like, he's like a billionaire playboy usually, and is like a public figure where everyone would know his voice and certainly his chin. He's got quite a chin usually, recognizable feature on his face there. So yeah, and so but in this one, you know, the fact that he's like a reclusive billionaire makes it so much more believable, because like you can't be like a reclusive playboy is not a thing. It's like a complete oxymoron. So like for him to be like pulling up at premieres with like 2 models in a limousine and then beating the shit out of dudes in a bat suit afterwards, and no one putting together that they're the same person, is insane. But like, you know, every time anyone sees Bruce Wayne out, which is rare, they're like, holy shit, it's Bruce Wayne. Like, that's crazy. What's he doing? Like, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, and in his suit, he looks so scrawny and pale as a ghost that no one would buy the physicality of it. And what you were saying about the chin, the fact that the cowl actually covers it up, and he's wearing black eye makeup.
Yes, I love the makeup. And he looks so much more like brooding and emo in the Batcave with his like smeared black makeup. And that's the thing, all the other ones do too, but like only with the mask on. I forget which one, but I saw a video recently. I think it might have been Michael Keaton. There's a shot where he takes his mask off, and it shows him before the mask's off, and he has the eye makeup. And then only in the shot where he takes it off, he's not wearing any. So I'm glad that they worked it in.
Yeah, exactly. I know it was the early 90s, but I find it weird that nobody would have put 2 and 2 together on that one.
He would have looked kind of cool. Well, maybe that's just my modern sensibilities. Because he did have very 90s, like, curly, mullety hair.
I mean, he had the black eye makeup in Beetlejuice. I don't think anyone would really take that too seriously.
That's true. Yeah. You know, it was vogue at the time. It was
yeah. And the cool thing is, even though he is the most fascinating character in the entire film, everyone else stands up to par with him in terms of how great they are. The side characters, this is going to sound weird, but like their line delivery all makes them sound so snappy and memorable that just fits the film noir tone that they're going with.
Yeah.
Especially with Zoë Kravitz as Selena Kyle. I absolutely loved her performance. In my opinion, she is the definitive Catwoman.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know that she's still bitter about not being Catwoman in Dark Knight Rises, and I don't understand why she's bringing all this shit up. Nobody likes Dark Knight Rises anymore.
It's true. It had very limited appeal. Like, I like aspects of it, but I can't, like, fully, you know, say that it's one of my favorites.
And the weird thing is, like, what was good about Anne Hathaway in that is basically the exact same good thing about her in this film. And the only reason Anne Hathaway was good in it was because she was stepping out of her comfort zone. She wasn't happy and perky Anne Hathaway. She was this snarky and sassy cat burglar, and she absolutely owned how kind of over the top but still straightforward the performance was. And it's the same thing here. She has this soft but still snarky line delivery where even when she's insulting you to her face, to your face anyways, she still sounds seductive and mysterious that you can't tell if she's genuinely being serious or if she just is hiding the fact that she genuinely likes you.
Yeah. She's much more like hardened than Anne Hathaway was. Because, yeah, that was the funny thing about Anne Hathaway, like trying to like kind of talk shit about Bruce Wayne's privilege in Dark Knight Rises, is that she also gave off a vibe of like pretense a little bit, whereas like this Catwoman seems like she's lived like a really hard life, and she's like kind of got to that point by struggling and by actually relying on, you know, kind of living outside the law to survive, whereas the other Catwoman didn't seem like she had endured very much. But that just could be the writing. I'm not sure it's a performance thing.
I do think it was the writing, because that's the Chris Nolan thing where everybody has to talk like an intellectual no matter what status they are class-wise. Yeah, and that's like a big turnoff of the Nolan movies, is that they do spell out everything towards you. It's not that it's poorly written or anything. It's just, did we really need the Joker to say, it's not about money, it's about sending a cause?
Yeah, like there's ways to show that and not tell that, for sure.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that she actually has a fair bit in common with Bruce, because like him, her connection to the Riddler and this big conspiracy that he's trying to unravel stems from this tragic backstory that's not from the comics, but I don't think anyone's really going to complain about it here, because it is pretty well utilized. And they have this mutual lust for vengeance that makes the chemistry between them so genuinely believable. The only real difference is because so many loved ones of hers have been caught in the crossfire, she's much more. She thinks that she's willing to go further than he is in order to discipline people physically. And he has to find ways to show her that she'll become just as bad as they are if she actually does go down that road. Eerily similar to the Riddler. I like that there are 3 vigilantes in this movie where one is good, one is bad, and one walks that fine line in between, but they still stalk their prey from beneath the shadows. They still really dish it out with their fists if they genuinely do not like you whatsoever. The only difference is each of them have certain boundaries or absolutely not at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's cool. Like they made a good point about Bruce and Selina having a closer. Yeah, they seem more, I guess, akin to one another than in the, because there's this desperation about them that makes it seem like that they exist perfectly as themselves in this world for reasons that make sense. Whereas the Christopher Nolan Bruce Wayne, it's like he doesn't have to do that,
No.
Like it's like he's stupid rich. Like he can afford this giant place with giant LED panels in the ceiling where you shoot music videos and stuff, and his giant roller tank car and all this stuff. Whereas this Batman obviously is still a million or billionaire, but he lives in this crumbling subway tunnel kind of area, and he doesn't seem like he has truly unlimited resources, and he's also, like I said, desperate. He's driven by this rage, and he has to be Batman. He's compelled to do it, just like Catwoman has to be Catwoman, or else their heads will explode perhaps, or their hearts will eat themselves. I'm straying from the point, but
no, that's good. I got no problem with that.
Motivations are very strong, so yeah, I really enjoyed that as opposed to the other dynamic of the Nolan ones. So
yeah, for sure. And one other performance that I wasn't 100% on initially was Paul Dano as the Riddler, because he has a tendency to get a little too over the top in some performances. I don't know how you thought about him in Prisoners, where he kind of does have to act a little out of the ordinary, and he does have a legit reason for being so. But it was one of those performances where if he was the taddest bit too loud, it wouldn't have worked.
True.
But in this one, dude just hits the perfect level of over the top. And I think just like Batman and Catwoman, he spends a lot more time in his costume than he does just out in the open world. In fact, he kind of views Batman's costume as his own skin, the way that he considers the Riddler costume his own. And the fact that you don't see his mouth, you can barely make out his eyes through the glasses because there's a reflection in there, and I kind of wonder if that was on purpose.
It's very comic booky, yeah. The whole, you see that a lot in comics, but they can almost never pull it off. It's also a big anime thing. People with glasses that are completely white because of the reflection, and they pulled off a lot of that, and it really obscures his identity. But as he said, you can tell he's most comfortable as his made up persona, which is a thing all 3 of them have in common.
And if Superman can get away with this, so can I.
True that. You can just picture Superman flying around with that what's called a winter combat mask with glasses underneath. No one will recognize me like this. It just doesn't match the suit at all. It's dark green. That'd be great.
That would be pretty decent, but wow, I just love that because of all the physical limitations. When he does get super loud and boisterous, it actually makes him a fuck ton more creepy.
Yeah.
The first kill is kind of like the Psycho shower scene where he's in the background out of focus, but the victim is in the foreground. And he's as solid as a rock, so you don't know what he's thinking. You don't know when he's going to strike or how much passion he's going to have when he does it. And it just made it all the more intense. And on second viewing, some of the moments that I thought were kind of too campy made a little bit more sense once I realized what was going to be a reveal. Because there are some moments where he does have to pull the rug under everybody, and when he gloats about it, it is a little too silly, but at the same time, it's mostly during the moments where he like is in full display, and that's not very often.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he's freaky because I knew he was gonna be the Riddler, and so yeah, the first time you see him behind somebody, like you don't expect him to just beat their head in and be fucking howling the whole time. Like I expected him to like tie somebody up with an elaborate trap, and they have to do like a Rubik's cube before they fall into like a pit or into like a pit of snakes or something. But like no, he just beats people's heads in, and leaves crazy clues around. Another cool thing, of course, that I'm sure you were going to touch on is the fact that a lot of this movie actually involves detective work. Like, a lot of it's Bruce and Alfred just, like, solving puzzles rather than, like, as, oh my god, what's that from? I use my computer to analyze it using science. Pete Holmes as Batman on College Humor or some shit like that. Funny or Die, maybe, that's what it was. Anyway, terrible. He's a terrible Batman in that, on purpose, of course. But yeah, the whole, like, using my computer to analyze it with science, like, that's basically what it always is. Just like he seems to hit a button and a bunch of, like, Iron Man type graphics happen and, little squares pop up around people's faces and it's like, this person was spotted in this place. And the dialogue moves so fast that you can't even realize that, or that you never think about how it just kind of, it skips through a lot of stuff without giving you time to realize, like, that wasn't a very strong connection. How'd they get here? It's like Nicolas Cage in National Treasure, just like connecting dots, and it moves so quickly that you never question it, and then you end up in the next scene and it doesn't matter. So I'm glad that there's there's time for the audience to also think about the mystery and to also try to decipher these clues. These like silences where they're trying to figure it out in real time, it seems. And that was really cool.
Oh, 100%. It is great that there's a lot more detective work in it that drives most of the action towards it, because the trailers do kind of make it out a little bit more as not a fast-paced, but a decently paced enough action thriller, even though this is more of a Hitchcockian detective suspense film.
Yeah.
For the most part. And that's not to say there aren't any action sequences in this movie. There are plenty, and when they are, Matt Reeves does what every director of action movies should do nowadays. Hold the fucking camera still.
Yes.
One of the reasons that we can watch this more than any other Nolan movie, Matt Reeves knows what a tripod is.
Absolutely. Oh my god. Yeah, that's the funny thing about Nolan is that he's very like, he goes for the cinema verite sort of thing, but to an extent where it's like a little too documentary sometimes. Like he goes from like super heightened style to like like the camera being mounted on the side of vehicles, which is really cool. And like he was kind of the first director I noticed to try to do that. But like in a movie like this, you want it to be you want it to feel like a comic book. And so the comic book isn't trying to capture like the idea of like, oh, what if someone was really there drawing this picture like a court portrait artist, whereas he's trying to be all like, what would it be like if a person was here with a camera, like there's going to be some zooms, there's going to be some shakes, but like with this it's like, no, it's like a comic book, so it's going to be perfectly framed and it's going to be beautiful and terrifying and gross and really capture a vibe rather than like trying to, because no one's sitting there being like, well, I don't think a cameraman would be safe in that situation. Like, no, who cares? Like, so yeah,
it's ridiculous. I don't get why he thinks cinema verite and IMAX go together.
True that.
They really don't.
Man, I feel so bad dunking on Mr. Nolan, but I love him because I love him so much. But like,
I like him. I mean,
it's just like by comparison, though.
All the complaints that we had about Dark Knight, like he technically fixed those in Dunkirk.
True. Yeah,
which is weird. One would think that'd be the one movie where his style would genuinely work, but no, he went for more of the theatrical experience, and it worked a hell of a lot better, in my opinion. But yeah, just the fact that the fight scenes in this are done in wide shots and longer takes to show and sell the choreography, to sell the fact that the actors are the ones doing it, and using the location as creatively as you possibly can. If Batman can jump from a flight of stairs to a floor in a second and then punch a guy out in the same frame, they will absolutely do it.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, it was just so restrained, but also like a little more out there with its style. So yeah, it's such a weird blend of like because everything felt so grounded too. Like there was no, as I kind of touched on with like Bruce not being like crazy, unfathomable rich. Like he was obviously super wealthy to afford all the crazy shit he has, but like he's not like he's not Iron Man, which is cool. And similarly, yeah, like everything felt like it could really happen. Like there were very few things that like don't exist in the real world, or at least have like some sort of real world counterpart.
Yeah.
Maybe the car chase would be unlikely to happen in real life, but not impossible. It's not impossible.
I don't care. Like the car chase was probably the major highlight of the movie for me because
Oh yeah,
wow.
yeah. I usually don't care about car chases. I'm just like waiting for them to crash and then start fighting again. Usually, just because I'm so jaded from all the shaky cam car chases where you can't tell which car is which, and then you know, there's just so few interesting things you can do with a car chase unless you're relying on like a crazy environment or something. But like, they're just on a highway, and it's the best car chase I can think of.
Well, I mean, it doesn't technically do anything brand new, but at the same time, it's the fact that the actors look so intense as they're driving, and the camera is literally locked in on the car from the outside as they're driving, just to give the illusion that they're the ones actually behind the wheel. They do put POV shots like in front of and behind the car just to let you know how much traffic there is right in front of them, how close Batman is to tailing the Penguin, who is just screaming and shouting all over the place. He's displaying the exact amount of fear that Batman wants out of his prey. And the fact that they do hit cars and pylons and shit over and over again.
It's so intense too, because oh my god.
And Michael Giacchino's score
Oh my god.
amplifies it to 14. Like, his Batman music is insane. It is large scale. It is epic. It is almost, I dare say, operatic.
Absolutely.
And because you're the musician in this video, I would love to know what you thought of Giacchino's music.
Oh my god. Like, yeah, because one of the coolest things I noticed is that, you know, typically with a movie like this, you know, I try to compose things. It's a thing I'm into. I would like to do it as a job one day. So I'm always thinking about how I would approach writing a score for a movie. And so with this one, you know, I was thinking about how I would probably pour all this time into coming up with like the perfect Batman theme and like make it completely original but also very Batman. But then with this movie, it seems like his theme is a Nirvana song. It's Something in the Way, which is super cool because, just like the chords pop up in places where it isn't super obvious that that's what's happening. And then also, so it's really interesting that, so do you know the term leitmotif? Leitmotif?
I'm not sure that I do, but go on.
So it's basically like a little piece of music that has a specific association within a story. So like in Star Wars, the Force theme, like the that's like the first time you hear it is when Luke's looking at like the two suns.
Yeah.
So that's called the Force theme. So every time anyone has a little interaction with the Force unexpectedly, that'll play. And then there's like Leia's like love theme, and there's a bunch of other little pieces of music that just pop up, and obviously like the Imperial March. And so they intertwine them to like evoke certain characters and certain vibes. And so I noticed that in this one, two of the leitmotifs are, so Batman's is the Nirvana song, and then the Riddler's is Ave Maria. So like
That's true.
It's super ballsy and really cool to see a composer take basically two little pieces of music to represent the characters that are already existing recognizable pieces of music, and to intertwine them too. I think Catwoman's is the only reason I noticed it is because it plays like 1,000 times when she's breaking into the safe. Is this one little theme, and I remember because I'm always thinking about it musically. I'm always like, it's like I don't know if I would have repeated that as many times, because like I get like nervous about my things, and it's like I got to move on to something else or else people will get bored. But like it was like it perfectly, you know, associated you with her kind of sneaking around and stuff. But then later in the movie, you hear that same little melody over top of like the chords from that Nirvana song when her and Bruce are doing stuff together. And there's these such nice.
You know what? I didn't notice that actually.
That was really cool. I thought that was Ooh.
See, like Catwoman's theme, I remember so much because it just fits how seductive and Yeah, like the main thing is just how seductive it is. The way they use so many, they basically just use string instruments. Like it's nothing but violins and a freaking harp.
Yeah,
Even as
those
she's
plucked,
doing all of these crazy backflips, it just makes her seem so elegant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's something about like a plucked piano or a plucked violin and a harp. Those like kind of plucked orchestral string instruments that always kind of have this like like this delicate kind of sneaky vibe to them. And so yeah, they're perfect for her. Damn. And the fact that he like just didn't he just do Spider-Man too? Didn't he do No Way Home? Am I crazy? Is that a different
I'm
guy?
not sure,
Shit,
actually.
I should have IMDb'd this beforehand.
No, it's fine. Like, dude does Pixar stuff all the time.
I'm pretty sure he did the John Watts Spider-Man movies.
It wouldn't surprise
but
me.
I was really impressed with that score too of No Way Home, and the fact that he did this like the same year, just crank it. He's directing a movie now too for Marvel. He's doing Werewolf at Night or something which might be a TV thing.
I don't know.
Anyway.
The last thing I heard about Shakino is that he and Brad Bird are allegedly doing a live action musical that's got like 20 minutes of animation in it,
Ooh.
which better fucking be 2D animation.
Yes.
After how incredibly disappointing and overrated Turning Red was, which, yeah, big surprise. I didn't like it, but
I saw it last night. I really liked it.
Well, tuning in on our next collaboration.
We're turning red, baby. Hell yeah.
Only one of us will leave this.
Yep. The other one will be a red stain on the ground. Duking it out. Hell yeah.
Oh my god.
Excellent
But
cage match.
yeah. But yeah, the music was fantastic. The cinematography was... It felt like the blend of comic books and Alfred Hitchcock in the way it visually delivered suspense. Like the very first sequence where Batman is spying on Catwoman, it might as well have come out of Rear Window. The fact that the only shots we really get are of a POV of Bruce's binoculars as he's going through room to room of her apartment, the same way Jimmy Stewart did with that hot lady that was across from his way. And then it cuts back and forth to him looking through the binoculars, just a huge close-up of his eye or a wide shot from behind to really build up what it is he's actually thinking towards her. And there are so many shots in this movie where as they're digging up clues, they tend to film from behind the person who's investigating just to really make us like grip our fists in suspense wondering, gee, what is this one minor clue? What does the Riddler want the Batman to discover? All of that shit, particularly in this one fantastic hostage situation between Batman, the Riddler, and Peter Sarsgaard.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that was even him until I saw his name in the credits.
Yeah, he's a chameleon. He shreds. Absolutely.
And what makes him a weird chameleon is that even though dude looks like a dweeb, he usually plays a scumbag in movies.
It's true.
And
Yeah.
this movie has an interesting way of making you like feel sorry for the scumbags because even though, yeah, they make people's lives miserable for the sake of a buck, once they're put into an incredibly dangerous position, you just sit there and you go, okay, there's no excuse for this kind of behavior. And the fact that he is like crying his eyes out, completely stuttering over his words, mentioning that he does have a wife and kids, to show that, yeah, the people that you see on the news who are corrupt as hell may or may not love their kids and may legitimately think that they're doing this for their kids. They're
That's
still
true.
wrong.
Yeah,
but
they're still people, which is a very nuanced take for a Batman movie.
Yeah, it's a nuanced take for a movie nowadays.
Yeah, at all.
I mean, let's face it, most movies nowadays would not give these guys any redeeming qualities whatsoever.
It's true. Yeah, it doesn't want you to feel bad about them dying, which is the whole point, really. You should feel bad when people die. Like,
yeah, and I feel like...
You should always be psyched.
And I feel like Catwoman's supposed to, like, represent the audience's perspective towards these rich people. I'm not sure that Kravitz really got the message of that character based on some very choice social media posts, but...
I'm unfamiliar. I'm blissfully unaware.
So am I. Not as much as you, unfortunately, but...
Oh, I was going to say, though, yeah, you made a really good point about how it really puts you, like, it puts you in a position where not only you are in the perspective of certain characters through those shots of the back of their heads and those like long silences and everything. But so yeah, it puts you in a spot where you automatically go in there, but you want to be in there. You like it pauses just long enough to be like, oh man, what's going on in their head? Like I want to dive into what's happening and actually explore their mentality right now. And also with the binocular shot, the movie opens with a binocular shot that I originally assumed was Batman.
So did I.
Yeah.
In fact, my one friend actually thought it was a flashback. He looked at the guy in question and he goes, "Is that Alfred?" And I'm just like...
And there's the little kid dressed as a ninja, and it's like, maybe it's young Bruce, you know?
And there are some minor hints that we may see that kid in the future.
Possible Robin.
Possibly.
Also, there's some theories on the internet that the kid with the half paint who's getting initiated at the start, he is played by an actor who plays one of 3 Robins in Titans.
Really?
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. Because there's like Tim Drake and Barry Allen. Barry Allen's the Flash. Fuck. Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
And then there's a third one, and all 3 of them are in the show, and so he's just in the newest season as, I think, Tim Drake.
Wow.
So that's kind of interesting there.
I can't imagine it being like Jason or anything like that.
Yeah, I forget. Because one of them is Robin in the show, and then the other one is Nightwing, I'm pretty sure. And then there's the third one who is also a former Robin or something like that. But anyway, yeah. So
yeah, he turns into like Red Hood or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, it's cool too because that scene of Batman with the binoculars watching Catwoman, it's like it could be, you know, naturally you'd read that as like, oh, a guy watching a lady, you know, is inherently slightly creepy.
Yeah.
But the film does such a good job of like making you aware of his intentions, because when it cuts back to his eyes and his facial expressions, you realize like, because it doesn't show you that it's him looking through them at first.
That's true.
Because my first assumption is like, oh, that's Batman watching these people, and it's like, oh fuck, it's the Riddler, and he's gonna kill that guy. And then so later when you see someone spying on Catwoman, you're like, it's the Riddler again. But then it's Batman, and from his facial expressions, you know, he has positive intentions. He's like looking after her, he's trying to protect her, rather than him just creeping on her. So like it does such a great job of visually telling you these things without, you know, it doesn't like we said before, it treats the audience in a mature way. It doesn't like worry about like hitting you over the head with these things like
they do spell it out like once or twice, but you know, the actors make it sound perfectly natural.
It's true. And that's another thing, is how natural they make like the quippy detective dialogue sound. It's very comic booky, very snappy, and very quippy, but like also in a way where it's like a noir movie.
Especially with Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's talking about how incredible the prosthetics are.
His voice is crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing though. He has to have that perfect Jersey Italian accent where looking at him you just go, was he on The Sopranos?
Yeah.
And he also has to like physically sell the part of this charismatic but still incredibly slimy individual who dude looks like the love child of DeVito's Penguin and De Niro's Al Capone.
Yeah, or like De Niro at the end of Raging Bull when he's all fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the scars for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what a Penguin miniseries is really going to do, but I'm looking forward to it.
Totally, especially if they, if they pull a Peacemaker and they're willing to have some cameos of some choice characters. That's the
I'd
thing.
like that. The fact that those cameos even happened was mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that's one thing that kind of made me never interested in like something like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for example, is I knew there would never be any like, tangible big tie-ins.
I didn't waste my time on that one.
Yeah, it's like, I know they can't get the big Avengers actors in this, so why do I...
Oh, you got Ghost Rider? Oh, okay, it's the other one.
Yeah, some guy who's not Nicolas Cage. Justice for Nick. Bring Nick back to the MCU.
Oh, he's got the unbearable weight of massive talent. He'll live.
Yeah,
that better be good.
I've heard it's I've heard it's good, but the only thing about it, because I love him now so much, there's this 3-hour video by a channel called In Praise of Shadows about Nicolas Cage, and
really,
it's incredible. You got to see it. It's if you have 3 hours to spare, but very compelling. He went from being a guy who I was fascinated with for the meme to like my favorite fucking actor, just from because his approach is so interesting. But
I mean, appreciating him for the meme, that's totally valid.
yeah, and that's how I got into it. But then it's like you find out that he is kind of sad about being a meme because he genuinely loves what he does and genuinely pours his heart into everything. He's not in crazy debt like everyone thinks he is. He actually likes making crazy movies. But the thing about this movie is that his heart wasn't really in it, and he didn't want to see it afterwards because he felt weird about playing himself, and
that does kind of have me worried.
Yeah, and he was saying something about how like he was basically doing it because he's aware of the meme, which he's not a super big fan of. He's like, yeah, I'm just kind of having fun with myself, but I'm not really going to check it out because it wasn't a performance that I lost myself in, or that I usually give as much care
Yeah, I was
to.
going to say, I'm a little more excited just to see what Pedro Pascal does.
Yeah.
Basically being Nicolas Cage in front of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, because I read the premise and I saw the trailer, and it's like, this is going to be incredible. I love Nicolas Cage so much. But then that little knowledge of like, he's not too psyched on it. It hurts me a little bit, but I'm still gonna love it. So
it doesn't always mean failure or anything.
Exactly. I'm sure it'll be good, but just like
it's really hard to say.
Knowing 3 hours of information about his acting process now, part of me is just like, oh, but it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah.
But still, it's gonna be great. I'm psyched.
That's true.
It's a hilarious premise. So
the only real issue I had with this Batman is that I would have liked more of an arc for Gordon's character. Now, don't get me wrong. Jeffrey Wright does good work as always. I mean, it's Jeffrey Wright. Dude could give a good performance in his sleep. And he's got that quick-witted accent towards him that makes even the darkest of jokes that cops would make that they're on the job sound completely natural. If you've ever seen Law & Order, you know that they make certain quips about dead bodies just as a defense mechanism, but when they're talking to friends and family of the victims, they know exactly what to say, and they're being 100% genuine about it.
Absolutely.
But like, there are moments where he's discovering that certain cops that he's been friends with for a long time have been on the payroll, and he doesn't exactly give as much of a reaction as I figured he would, and you don't really see him confronting that many people or doing that much detective work on his own. I appreciate the good cop batshit crazy relationship that the two of them have, but I don't know why. Even though he was in it technically more than Andy Serkis as Alfred, I was fine with how much they gave Alfred.
He fit. Like, yeah, because I know a lot of people were like weirdly worried about. They're like, oh, I don't know, he seems too grizzled, but like if he's gonna be this version of Alfred, I think he's perfect. But yeah, they left you just enough because we're spoiling, right? Like this is
you can give a minor spoiler, yeah.
Okay, so there's a time where you might think that Alfred is no more, and part of because of how little he'd been in it, but how much he means to Bruce, like you're just like, oh my god, like did they just kill Alfred? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know if you want to cut that out, but
I did. No. That's fine. It's been like a week and a half.
True that.
But yeah, what you just said, those scenes worked for that exact reason, and the editing makes you feel as if those moments were happening in real time, and then it pulls you under the rug saying, "Oh, did we say that? Whoops, my bad."
Yeah, it's weird too because Bruce is probably thinking like, "Oh my god, I didn't appreciate Alfred while I had him. He might not be around," and the audience is doing that too, just like, oh shit, he's already gone. I forgot. I was expecting more scenes with them. I thought we had more time. Yeah. The fragility of an Alfred. Something to behold. Usually he's the Rock, but yeah, that's another cool thing about this is that everything's kind of up in the air, It feels like any horrible thing can happen, whereas like
that is true, especially towards the climax that I had. The first time I saw it, I just sat there. I'm like, this is exciting as hell. But was it really necessary? Because, long story short, there's a moment like 20 minutes before where you think the movie is over.
Yeah.
And then they pull you under the rug saying, oh, no, there's a little bit more to it. That I just sat there. I'm like, this seems a little extreme. But I was still okay with it, and it didn't seem that out of place. And then the second time I see it, it turns out the location of the climax and the person who is basically the damsel in distress of that scenario is up on a billboard of this one location as Bruce is stalking down Selena. And I just sat there, I'm like, fuck.
And it's cool too because they do a good job of making you see her name everywhere, and so you may not have been a citizen of Gotham watching the mayoral debates, and you're not actually aware of all the context there, but you're aware of that she's super important because you see billboards for her all the time. And
Yeah,
you're aware
exactly.
Of the election, and you don't.
And there's a key component of the Riddler's one hideout where there's this one building where all the red neon lights are burnt out except for the letter R. And I saw the window of it, and I just sat there. I'm like, wait a minute, I saw the Riddler in that window in the trailer. You fuckers! Like Jordan Peele doesn't foreshadow as good as this guy.
Man, that was incredible. Yeah, there's so many. Oh, it's just so dialed in. Like,
it's legitimately one of these movies that gets better, and you find new things to appreciate. Like, I just liked Something in the Way as a catchy song, as like a little bookend, but then I realized the songs actually utilize the same way that the immigrant song in Thor Ragnarok is utilized, where it actually ties into a key component of Bruce's character arc, where maybe as opposed to focusing less on beating the crap out of people, you could focus on like rescuing the people that are about to have the crap beaten out of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man. Oh my God.
There's just so much to dissect from this. Yeah. So much so, judging by how long we've gone through this, which if people can watch a 3-hour video of Nicolas Cage, this is not going to blow people's minds or anything like that.
This is going to need some editing. I did some rambling.
No, that's fine. It's calling what you do rambling is like calling what Josh does rambling. There's really no point. Oh, anytime.
Hell yeah. Oh man. Shit, I felt like I had some other dumb thing to ramble about. Oh well. So many endless things to say about this movie.
There are so many endless things to say, and that's exactly what makes the Batman so fucking good. Probably one of my new favorite comic book movies, thanks to the performances, the direction, the cinematography, the music, the action sequences, the tone, the themes, the foreshadowing, just fucking everything. It's already like the middle of March, and I have no idea how many other movies are going to come close to topping how much fun I've had with this one.
Absolutely. Oh man. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird too because, as I said, the marketing had me kind of jaded about it. I thought they were trying to oversell it a little much. And then, but no, they nailed it.
They proved that you can make a 3-hour movie feel like 2.5 without ever having a dull moment.
Yeah, I didn't even notice how long it was until afterwards. Like it just keeps you invested, keeps stringing you along.
The first time it ended, my friend and I just took a huge deep breath and we're just like, damn. Wasn't bored. But yeah, if for whatever reason you guys haven't seen The Batman already, definitely check it out. It is totally worth it. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
You know what? I'm 5 up.
All right. That's awesome.
Maybe I'm easy to impress. I know I am, but oh my God. My favorite Batman. Easily. Holy shit. Like
probably. Like, truth be told, I haven't seen the Michael Keaton ones. I have seen Val Kilmer and George Clooney, but
I'm sorry to hear that.
It wasn't, it wasn't because I thought it was going to be good. It's because everybody told me what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So
they're their own thing, if you're into that.
Yeah, so I feel like the only Batman movie that technically comes close might be either like the straight to video ones where they can fully go all out, or Mask of the Phantasm that was technically a theatrical detective movie.
True that. Yeah, because say what you will about the George Clooney and Val Kilmer ones, those are comic booky. That's like what someone who has no experience with modern comics would think a comic book movie is like.
Probably
like super zany and crazy, but this is a comic book movie.
At least it was real. At least it was before the MCU existed.
True. Yeah. But
although I'm not sure that people really take the MCU seriously as a companion piece to comic books, at least not anymore.
True. Yeah. I feel like the comic heads are very, yeah, they're a little bummed about those. Because they're their own reality where it's kind of heightened, but it's not quite heightened enough. And I think this movie really threads the needle of, being super grounded, but so stylish and so rich and like thoroughly imagined and put together and lived in that like it feels like that you're literally in a comic book. It's bizarre to feel like it's a tangible place that you could visit but it's obviously a completely fictional city.
Oh, it's fantastic. Those sequels could not come faster enough. And with the amount of villains and side characters that they want to introduce that don't necessarily fit the grittier tone, I'd love to see how they could accomplish that. Because the one thing about the Dark Knight trilogy is that nobody has superpowers in this. Not even Bane. He's just buff.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I know we're kind of wrapping up, but you know how he shoots himself up with some green stuff to beat the shit out of somebody? Batman does. In the comics, there's
right.
There's stuff called Venom. No connection to the Marvel superhero, of course. But there's a comic storyline where Batman becomes addicted to it, and then later on,
I thought that was adrenaline, but now that you mention it, that could be a good tie-in.
And that's what fuels Bane too. He's got those like green tubes, and so
I thought it was like adrenaline from Pulp Fiction, but you just gave me another puzzle piece.
So there you go. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that either. I just read that the other day.
Wow.
So I completely forgot that happened. Just like oh man, so much groundwork laid for so many amazing future things. Man, they're killing it. DC's making a huge comeback.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, this isn't even tied into what DC is doing right now. Like those commercials that say, "Oh, coming from DC, Batman." Along with every DCEU movie out this year, The Flash, Aquaman 2 is apparently coming out this year, which, go fuck another fish, asshole.
That was so good. Oh my god.
I can still watch and laugh at that.
Oh, that's perfect.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for sticking through with this, and thank you for joining me and lending me this studio for a tad bit.
My esteemed pleasure. I wish I had remembered my keys and that we didn't have to wait outside in the snow because I'm an idiot.
There's that's still plenty of decent time. If you guys aren't tuning in just because of him, Adam Reinhardt here is the frontman of a local punkcore or pizzacore.
Yeah,
I love that you guys come up with your own genre.
Thank you.
Adam here is the frontman of a local band called Danger Liker that does do pizzacore music. They have their own album out on Spotify called Live It, Breathe It, Like It. It's a really cool album. Definitely check it out.
Thank you. Like and subscribe, yo. You gotta. Man,
exactly.
It's wild to see you do this in person. He shreds, huh? Folks at home, you know, so concise, just so like, oh my god, that was extremely impressive to see live. Damn, dude.
Well, I mean, a year or two of seeing you guys do it live, I figured I owed you as much.
Get out of here! I'm so psyched to be part of this. Let's go. Glorious.
This will definitely not be the last time.
I'm so down. Hell yeah. We'll see if I can get more of my schlubs to come out and see movies too. They'll be down.
Well, at least one of them I know for sure would definitely be up for this.
They're down to talk about stuff, but they're just not down to leave their houses to go see stuff. So that's the hard part.
That's totally fair. But in any case, to everyone here who has seen the Batman, let us know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews, more collaborations, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.
Peace.
That was awesome.
Oh,